Hi, everybody. You are listening to Judging Meghan with your host, Meghan Judge. It's summer. I don't know if that's a good thing. I mean, should I just say it's summer and that's the whole podcast? It's summer. And this means that my kids are now home from school for the summer. My 11-year-old had field day today. My guest knows I was scrambling because I thought I had a ride to get her to like a beach party afterwards, and it fell through. So I was sitting here, you know, as a mom, you're scrambling at the end of the school year. She has like a dance performance. I have to drive to pick up another kid all the way on the other side of my 2-mile radius town. So it's just one of those days, and it's the time of year. And so many moms that I talk to are just done. They're done. They want it to be summer. And I'm one of those moms that does not plan camps. I think I have my 11-year-old in one camp, my older 15-year-olds in summer school. And that's all we have planned, because my plan right now is to sleep in. I'm going to let myself sleep in and let my kids sleep in. When I was a kid, I went to camp. My mom didn't make plans for us every day. She basically just dropped us off at the country club. We sat there all day and had a blast. Bonnie, I might bring you in really quickly and then I'll introduce you. Are you a mom?
I am not a mom,
okay,
but I understand being dropped off all day at a pool somewhere and told to entertain myself.
And we survived is my point. Like, I just feel like there's so much, like, I talk about this a lot, like keeping up with the Joneses. Like, what is your child doing for the summer? And I think it's part of, and I'm not trying to put anyone down that has to have their kid in a camp every day or whatever, but I just feel like, let kids be kids. Like, let them just relax. There's so much stress that goes into their daily lives right now that I feel like they really just need this time just to be kids. So they can, you know, we live at the beach. So I'm like, we'll spend days going to the beach. I just think it's a time to unwind and relax and let summer be summer, because it goes so fast, right?
Yeah. And by the way, research backs up what you're saying.
Well, because I'm really super smart, Bonnie. I don't know if you know that.
I do know that.
I'm
but
joking.
Wait, I have a very important question. When you say sleep in, what is that?
Okay. Well, sleeping. So I wake up every morning at like 6:30ish to get the kids up. And then, you know, you have to go in and wake them up multiple times because they won't wake up. And then, you know, my husband usually drives one to school. So I would say sleeping in for me would be like 7:30, like that extra hour.
Wow. Okay. I think.
Why is that not good?
Just, you know, challenge yourself. See if you can do it even longer. We'll get back to that because we're going to talk.
I cannot wait.
We've all been put here for a reason, and we all deserve acceptance.
Judging Meghan with Meghan Judge.
I'm a trauma survivor from a really young age, and I have been diagnosed with complex PTSD in the past few years. I've been surrounded by death and abuse much of my life. I've been dragged through the mud and have been to the point of not wanting to go on anymore. Through my interviews with other survivors, I've learned that there is a way out. From recovering to surviving and thriving, we all have the strength to come out the other side.
You are listening to Judging Meghan.
Okay, everyone, if you can't tell that I'm like all frazzled today, well, now you know. I am so excited to talk to Bonnie. Bonnie Buckner is a dream expert, and Bonnie Buckner, PhD, might I add, because she's very smart. Her new book is called The Secret Mind: Unlock the Power of Dreams to Transform Your Life. Bonnie, welcome to the podcast. I am obsessed with learning about dreaming. I've had someone else on a couple years ago, but I love interpreting dreams. Sometimes I take a notebook and I put it by my bedside, and because that's what somebody told me to do one time. So I'm so excited to have you on. And your book, I read some of it, is amazing. I'm going to finish it because it's really, really good. Everyone, I'm going to hold it up. If you're watching on YouTube, it comes out on June 24th. Bonnie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's exciting. Okay. So let's start. I always ask the same question. Tell me where you're from. And also, why did you get into this? I know that's a long-winded question, but let's start there.
Okay. So I was born and raised in Texas. And then I lived for a little while in LA. I think you're in the West Coast. Yeah.
I'm in LA in Manhattan Beach.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah, it is pretty nice. Where'd you live in LA? Sorry, I have to ask.
Yeah, I lived in West Hollywood for a little while and then K-Town.
Oh my God, I used to live in West Hollywood. It's the best. We lived there for years and years. Okay, so I would ask you the street and all of that, but for the sake of time. So you lived on Sweetser?
Yeah.
I lived on Norton. I lived all over the place. Norton, Huntley. I mean, we lived in West Hollywood forever. It's the best, the best. Okay. Sweets are super cute too. So you grew up, grew up in Texas, then LA, then we kind of stopped there.
Yeah. And now I live in France, and that's because of a dream, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
I didn't know that you lived in France. See, and for the listeners, one of my favorite and if any other publicists are listening, I love all of you, but my friend Beth, she's become my friend, Beth Grossman, the most incredible lady. And she did not tell me this, that you were in France. So I'm so excited to find out all of this stuff, all the things. So tell me why you got into this specific field.
Okay. So I actually, when I was 3 years old, 1, 2, 3, very young, I had a series of nightmares, and it was really, really disturbing to me. And I really felt like, what do I do about this? And I remember sitting on our front steps, it was morning, and I was going through my mind thinking, well, could I not sleep ever? How do I stay awake? What's the Guinness Book of World Records for not sleeping? How kids think.
Little kids, yeah.
It just kind of hit me. Wait, I am here on this planet actually to figure out how to understand and change my nightmares and help other people do that. So that was a big, I get it. But then also childhood came, and it was always kind of in the back of my head. And I had a really great family of dreamers that supported me blurting out things like this. And that's also really important. There's a lot of parents who tell their kids, disparaging things when they say things like that. And people, maybe make fun of people saying things like that, or just say, okay, get more serious, whatever. My parents just let that float. And in fact, my dad and my grandmother were great dreamers, and they told me a lot of stories about problems they solved using their dreams and things that they did, and kind of miracles in our family that happened from dreams. So that was just kind of always in the back of my mind. And when I say I grew up in Texas, I grew up in the middle of nowhere, Texas. So there's not a lot of places to get deeper in that, where do you go to find out more about that? So my dad gave me some really great advice when I got older. He said, sometimes our other passions can become vehicles for the big thing we want to do. So what are all the other things you like to do? And I kind of rattled off some, and kind of at the forefront was working in film and TV, because those are images and they move people. Politics, I'm very interested in that. It's about, again, transforming things in a certain way. And of course, psychology. So my dad really encouraged me to choose one of those in getting my degrees. So I worked in the entertainment industry for a number of years in LA. That was my time in LA. I started a media political research company, worked on the John Kerry for President campaign, and did some things like that. I was going back and forth between LA and DC. And then through a dream and a series of dreams, I met a dream teacher, Dr. Catherine Shainberg, who became, my teacher. I studied with her for over 10 years, this very specific way of working with dreams. And somewhere around in there, I went back to school and got my PhD in psychology. It's been an evolving thing, is what I'm saying.
I have a lot in common with you. I do, because Okay, I'm gonna start here. I think that people sometimes come out and know exactly what they're supposed to do in life. And we might take like different routes to get there. Like I joke all the time, I've had three different lives and what I've done with a career. I started as an actress. That's why I moved out here, and a singer. Then I went into sales, and now like this is what I do. I'm a mental health podcaster. I'm fascinated by politics like you, especially now. And I hate even saying politics because I don't think that's what it's about that's happening, but I divert. But I think that the fact that you knew at 3 is a really interesting thing. And I think I'm very spiritual, like we're connected with why we're supposed to be here. And I think we go through a series of lessons. This is my opinion, and tests and signs and all the things that we go through. And then at the end of our lives, it's kind of like, okay, we learned, and then we transition to like wherever we go next, right? Whatever you believe. I think when I lost my sister at 2, okay, really tragically, she passed away. I witnessed it. My mom found her, and my listeners know this. But after she passed, I started to have reoccurring dreams for years that I picked my sister up out of her crib. I walked her down the hallway and I flushed her down the toilet. And it was so traumatic for me, to the point where when I think I was like around 10, my parents took me to a psychiatrist. It was the first time I went. And then, I started therapy and all of those things. But my question to you, and where I can kind of like be like, yeah, I understand that, is dissecting the dreams and why that happened, and why, you were having the night. I don't know if they were considered night terrors or dreams or whatever you think, but that's kind of my question. And how I can relate to you is, it is so scary being a kid, with not a fully formed brain, and being able to interpret a dream and why it's happening. And then kind of like waking up and going into like the rest of your day. But that kind of feeling, the dreams, if you will, like haunt you. Do you think that? Or I would love your perspective on what I just said.
Well, so let's back up for just a minute on what dreams are. And there's a lot of facets to that one thing. I'll just talk about one. You were talking about a not yet formed brain. Let's talk about the experience of coming into this planet and being put in form. So we're put in the form of a body, and everything we look out to see is form, it's material. But we experience things. We experience things like being sad, emotions. We experience things like feeling, really up or feeling really down. But those things are abstract. It's kind of like the wind. Mm-hmm. So we don't see wind, but we see leaves blowing in the wind. So we don't see our emotions, but we feel something. So one of the things that dreams do is they give us an image, a scenario of how we're feeling, so that we can see it, get our hands and our head wrapped around it, and then do something with it, to shift it, either by sort of recognizing it and shifting it in our waking time, which your parents responded in a great way by taking you to someone, or we can also re-enter the dream in some cases. I'll give you an example of a kid dream, because we have a program I have an Institute for Dreaming and Imagery where we teach classes and things, and we have a kids program. And one of our young dreamers had a dream of everybody's playing in the schoolyard, and all of a sudden this really frightening, scary, big black swan comes into the middle, and all the kids run to the corners and they're terrified. And she woke up terrified. So as someone who works with kids, we just worked with that image and said, well, what are some other ways that you can look at this, swan? What would you like to do with the swan? And she decided she wanted to make friends with it. And so as soon as she started to approach the swan, we had her close her eyes and imagine it. She jumps on its back and they're flying and they're having a great time. Now, we found out later from her mother that there had been suddenly a change in her teachers in the school. And there was a new teacher who was very strict, and the kids were scared of her. And so that's the running to the corners, right? But this idea of, oh, I can look at this differently. I can tame it in my own way. And what makes kids so great is because they're not thinking about it. It's just, oh, there's a swan. Oh, I could get curious about it. I could jump on its back and have fun. And it shifts everything. It shifts the emotion.
I think that I would love to know your opinion on kids dreaming. And like for my example I gave you, is it like I already know the answer because I had therapy about it for a long time, but like the guilt aspect, because kids don't know how to like be able to differentiate feelings. So it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, I remember being a child in all of my dreams. Like I can remember my dreams vividly, not all of them, but I can remember a lot of them. As I've gotten older, I have a harder time. I don't dream as much, or if I do, I don't remember them. Can you kind of break that down? I find that really interesting.
Yeah, because you said it at the very beginning about running around all over the place, and you've got to get the kids to school and you've got to get up early. And I suggested staying in bed a little bit longer. We're so busy as adults, you know, that sleeping in on summer days as kids and as adults is really important. If we're busy running around, I mean, most modern adults are super sleep deprived. It's hard to, if you want to, you know, catch a fish, you need to be next to the lake. So if we want to remember a dream, we kind of have to go to sleep. We have to have that good sleep to do it. So that's one of the reasons it's harder. The other reason is it gets dismissed. You know, as kids, we're so open to experience, and as adults, we tend to poo-poo a lot of things, and we don't bother to be curious about what's happening on the inside of us.
Okay, so I want to know about the actual book. Why did you decide to write this book?
You know, one of the things that I do is I deliver a coaching program, several learning modules in a coaching program at George Washington University. And I'm co-faculty director of it. And so the other co of that said, you know, we're doing this kind of dreaming work. I think you just need to write an A to Z book about it. And so it kind of started with that idea, and then COVID happened, and I realized, you know, all my life I've used dreams for myself. And then when I began being a teacher of dreams and working with people one-on-one, it's about transformation. And I watched during COVID so many people feel like they really didn't have access to the tools inside themselves to work through their emotions or solve their problems. And then it became a really driving thing for me to write this book. And that's where it kind of came from.
Tell me a little bit about the book. What are some big takeaways and I also want to get to why you're in France, because I love Paris, but I want to know some of the biggest takeaways. Like for somebody like me, that I'm fascinated by dreams. I always want to know what they mean, good and bad. I have a harder time. Well, also, I would love to know, I'm asking too many questions at once. Like I said, I'm frazzled today. But, you know, I take melatonin at night. So I would love your input on, you know, does that like make it so you can't really remember your dreams? Like if you drink alcohol, I'm assuming that might block your ability to remember your dreams. Can you talk about that? And then I'm going to go more into the book.
Okay. So, you know, most people think that dreams come from our minds. They don't. They come from our bodies. So that's already the flip. Dreams come from our bodies because they are the language of our experiences. So we don't experience the world in our brain. We experience it through touching it, smelling it, tasting it, hearing it. We live an embodied existence. We like to pop up into our heads and just kind of sit there all day long, but we're living an embodied existence. And while we're kind of hiding out in our heads, our bodies are experiencing so many different things. In our mind, for example, we might be saying, oh, I had this run-in with this teacher today. Maybe you had, I don't know, or I had this run-in with another parent today or whatever, but I'm just going to be cool about it. But inside, your body might be actually very tense or have a very, authentic response to that. And so all of those impressions and experiences and responses is what makes our dreams. So anything we put into our bodies, you said melatonin, you said alcohol, but eat chocolate before you go to bed is changing your body, and it's super spicy food. I've had people tell me, oh my gosh, I had Ethiopian last night and had the craziest dreams. Because all of these things are information coming into our bodies, and our bodies are responding to it.
I wonder, when you just brought that up, about why, so for example, why would you have a nightmare? What could that, because you're saying it's not from your mind, which, by the way, I never knew that before. I always assumed it was your mind. But, or if you have, I have this reoccurring dream all the time that I don't graduate from college. I think a lot of people have this dream, by the way, because I've asked people. I had a professor that hated me, and she just hated me. So I always was terrified that I wasn't going to graduate. All these years, I did graduate, everyone. I know that's shocking, but all these years later, I still have the dream. And it does make sense, because sometimes if I'm drinking wine or something, or I went out and I stayed out too late, that's when I have the dream. And I never really connected that, but I have the dream often. So why would I constantly, and I think a lot of people have that reoccurring dream of missing something, like a life event. What does that mean?
Yeah, I have a huge exam today and I'm late getting there, or I don't show up. Those are really common dreams. And so we have to think about whatever I'm experiencing today. There is a sort of linking of, oh, that reminds me of another time I had that experience. So if you mentioned the words terrified, you mentioned the words she hated me or he hated me.
She.
So, we have all kinds of interactions where we feel like, oh, I didn't make it very easy in this conversation with this person. Maybe they don't like me. And all of these are our own feelings, and we felt it before. So that's our sort of inner personal vocabulary of signaling, hey, you're feeling terrified about something. You're feeling like someone is hating you. It's just a shorthand. So we make our own image vocabulary through our own subjective experiencing. For you, it's that teacher. I have other people, it's that boss. Or other people, it's that parent. So these very personal, individual experiences are part of our own repertoire because we get it. We lived it, so we understand it.
But why do they reoccur? That's what doesn't make sense. It's always that dream that I can, well, maybe it's just the one I can remember. I mean, I know we have so many dreams that we don't remember, but why is it always that one? I don't understand that.
So many dreams that we don't remember, but here's why. So here's another counterintuitive thing. Nightmares are actually our friends. They're our friends because they're trying to wake us up to something that's either unresolved or reappearing. So if I have just an okay dream, I may or may not remember it. But if I have a dream that I've had before and it makes me feel a certain emotional way that's scary, or, some nightmares are about anger, then I'm going to wake up and I'm going to remember it. So it's our body just trying to hit us over the head with something, pay attention to this. This has come up again.
Do you think that these are signs? Like, are you spiritual at all? Do you think that like some of the dreams we have, because I know you're saying it's your body, but do you believe like people come to us in our dreams, like past, people we've lost? Do you believe in that?
Yeah, they can. You're talking about like a visitation dream.
Yeah.
It's funny. I've been talking about this book for the last several weeks in different venues and teaching in different venues. And for some reason, right now, that's the thing a lot of people are asking me about. And I work with a lot of, in different leadership programs and things like that. And I have people who, walking down the street, you wouldn't think of them as being people who talk about these subjects, think about these subjects. And many of these people that I've met say, can I just ask you one little thing? And they kind of whisper it, even though it's just the two of us on Zoom or whatever. Mm-hmm. And there's been, my grandmother, I'm pretty sure she came to visit me, and they're telling me this kind of conspiracy, not them being conspiratorial, like, I just want to tell you this little secret because I can't tell it to anyone else, but I think you're going to be okay with it. I am okay with it. And part of that is, normalizing the fact that we have experiences that aren't just super explained by today's science. There are other things. And so there is a distinction between I'm dreaming about my dad versus I'm having a dream that I feel like my dad visited me. Mm-hmm. And that's a really important distinction. I actually do talk about this in the book because when we start to really get into understanding that, then it helps us to know even more about like our intuition. When am I intuiting something that's about truly an intuition, or when am I just feeling something that's about me? We have to make these distinctions.
Okay, so tell me, what are some key takeaways on the book? Like if I were somebody that was going to go out and I'm going to plug it, The Secret Mind, can you tell my listeners some key takeaways?
Yeah, the first thing is your inner world is important. How you're feeling, how you're responding to life, what you know about yourself is really important, and it's important for us to listen to. So the first chapter is the letter, and I have a quote of very ancient rabbinic quote that a dream unopened is like a letter. Dreams are like letters, and a dream not interpreted is like a letter unopened. And that's so important these days because we do know what's right for us. Mm-hmm. And we jettison that. We don't pay attention to that so frequently. And we do know it. And we can express it very easily by saying things like, oh yeah, that doesn't feel right for me. The doesn't feel right for me is easier to express than I want to do this really bad, or I know this is my path, or I need to make this career change. Part of what dreaming does is it puts us really in touch with that inner part of ourself and kind of answers that question of how do I know that I know and what I know? How do I get in touch with that inner knowing? So very easy. I mean, I start in the first chapter of just here's how to remember your dreams. I have a friend who immediately called me after watching one of the videos on the website explaining the chapter by chapter. And she's like, you wrote chapter 1 for me. I'm going to finally remember my dreams. Yes. It's about remembering your dreams, starting there, and then starting to understand, why am I dreaming what I'm dreaming? And then how do I understand the dreams? And then how do I shift my experience? Because we often dream blocks. Mm-hmm. How do I identify those blocks, get over those blocks, transform that energy, and do what I really want to do with my life?
Okay, so that leads me into why Paris.
Okay, not Paris, France.
Oh, you're in France.
I'm in France, in the south of France. But today I'm in Texas at an Airbnb, but I'm living in the south of France.
By chance, Jean Le Pen or anywhere near there? Cannes?
No, but I know it's a beautiful place.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I've been there.
Super beautiful. Yeah. I'm about 3 hours from there. I'm in the south in a tiny little village between the Mediterranean and the Cevennes Mountains. And I started dreaming. I was living in LA and I began dreaming for over a year, go to France, go to France, go to France. And it was super surprising to me. The very first dream, I was actually turned around in my bed. My feet were at the headboard and my head was at the other end. So I knew my life is about to get, totally turned around. And I do talk about in the book, big, massive, life-changing dreams like that are super rare. Little dreams are frequent. Maybe it's time to reconcile with this friend, or it's time to. This was a big one, and you don't make a move from just one big dream, because it could have been wanting me to open that out in a much bigger way. Mm-hmm. And then it continued for over a year, the same sort of message. And so I made the move, and it's continuing to unroll and evolve. And yeah.
Are you happy that you did it?
Of course. Of
course. It sounds pretty nice. So do you think
nice. Yeah. But also, I just want to go back to something you said earlier.
Yeah.
Your sort of theory of life. I call it the Alan Finch Junior High theory of life. We come in with something, we live here and learn something, and then we go out.
So do you believe that too?
Yeah. We come in, we're learning, we're evolving, we're experiencing life in a different time, a different form, and then we go out. And I don't know what's next. We'll find out. But a lot of people ask me about when you made this big move, did everything just was perfect? There is no perfect on this life, and we'd be so bored if it was, really. So dreams challenge us. They put us in places where we're meant to, okay, now I get to develop another part of myself. This is really difficult. There's pleasure in the difficulty also, and also it's difficult, It's difficult to suddenly learn a new language and a new culture. And it's fun and it's adventurous. It's all of it.
I think that I love that you did that, by the way, because it's like life is all about taking chances. I think to be able to tap into your dreams, I have reoccurring dreams about certain things sometimes. And I'm like, a lot of them are scary for me. I still go to those dark places in my dreams, which I think are signs, and like we kind of talked about, but I don't always listen to, and I think you really need to listen to your intuition. Like we kind of talked about a few minutes ago. And so I love that you did that. And I think most people don't do that. And then at the end of their life, they have all of these regrets. They say you can't take it with you. I love a good bag and a shoe, but I'm not taking that with me into the next life. So it's about, taking the opportunities. And I think the world right now and the US is such a tumultuous, scary place, just listening to the news or turning on the TV. It's constant, fast paced, just to be, we talked about in the beginning, the summer, take a break, take this time, take the trip, do the things. And I think it's so important. And I think if you incorporate your book, The Secret Mind, I'm going to hold it up again, even though it's not on camera. There you go. I love everything you're talking about. And I think it's so, so important. So as we close, tell me what the biggest I asked some of the biggest takeaways, but if there's one thing, if somebody's going to go out and get the book today that you could close with, tell my audience that, and myself.
You have all the tools you need already inside you to solve your own problems. And when you plug into getting just really curious about your dreams and what is this dream trying to tell me, and then take it into your waking time and say, where am I feeling or seeing something like this in my waking time? And is there a little shift I can make? That already starts a whole new movement within, and that starts the transformation right there.
Well, thank you so much. I'm sitting here in my head picturing you like with like a bouquet of flowers and walking in the south of France, and it really makes me very jealous right now because it's such a beautiful place. So as we close, where can my listeners find you?
Well, you can find me at bonniebuckner.com. You can find me at institutefordreamingandimagery.com. We're on Instagram. Actually, the Instagram handle is bonniebuckner. Spell it out, .com, or dream with IIDI. And yeah, follow us and check it out.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. It was so lovely to meet you. And everyone, keep dreaming, because we all have to keep dreaming. It's part of life. I love dreaming, especially the good dreams. And I do write the things down sometimes when I remember, because I want to try and figure out the next day what they mean and if it's a sign or whatever it is. So in closing, everyone, you matter. Your story matters. Keep going. Thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Judging Meghan with Meghan Judge.